This is Katie Phillips, and this is my Thank You for Arguing presentation. So for my presentation, I decided to use the WestWing, and the WestWing follows the senior staff and advisors to Democratic President Josiah Bartlett during his time in office from 1998 to 2007. Staff members like Press Secretary C.J. Craig and Deputy Chief of Staff Josh Lyman are among the few characters whose political agendas are outlined over the course of the show's 5 seasons, providing an inside look at the inner workings of the staff serving the president from inside the West Wing of the White House. So for my offense, I decided to talk about patriotism, and President Bartlett in this speech appeals to an audience in the wake of a bombing at a college pool. He refuses to be partisan as he bonds together the country, speaking about the heroism of regular American citizens like those sitting in the audience. His words describe the resilience of the people of the United States in the face of tragedy, uniting the people as Americans rather than Republicans or Democrats. Bartlett's speech paints them as one people, one country of heroes standing together under one flag. And my quote from Heinrichs for this is, "Patriotism attaches a choice or action to the audience's sense of group identity."
Securing peace in a time of global conflict, sustaining hope in this winter of anxiety and fear. More than any time in recent history, America's destiny is not of our own choosing. We did not seek, nor did we provoke an assault on our freedom and our way of life. We did not expect, nor did we invite, a confrontation with evil. Yet the true measure of a people's strength is how they rise to master that moment when it does arrive. 44 people were killed a couple of hours ago at Kennesaw State University. 3 swimmers from the men's team were killed and 2 others are in critical condition, when after having heard the explosion from their practice facility, they ran into the fire to help get people out. Ran into the fire. The streets of heaven are too crowded with angels tonight. There are students and our teachers and our parents and our friends. The streets of heaven are too crowded with angels. But every time we think we've measured our capacity to meet a challenge, we look up and we're reminded that that capacity may well be limitless. This is a time for American heroes. We will do what is hard. We will achieve what is great. This is a time for American heroes, and we reach for the stars. God bless their memory. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you. I think you like that laugh.
So for my defense, I decided to talk about logical fallacies, and in this clip, President Bartlett criticizes a radio host who condemns homosexuality as an abomination on her show by juxtaposing her position, which is based on biblical scripture, with other supposed laws outlined in the Bible that today are seen as ludicrous. Dr. Jenna Jacobs states her opinion is supported by the Bible, yet Bartlett successfully counters her argument by outlining the ridiculous nature of other acts that are also supposedly supported by the Bible. My quote from Heinrichs for this is, "All logical fallacies come down to bad logic."
Thank you very much. Howie, forgive me, Dr. Jacobs. Are you an MD?
The PhD.
A PhD?
Yes, sir.
Psychology?
No, sir.
Theology?
No.
Social work?
I have a PhD in English literature.
I'm asking because on your show people call in for advice and you go by the name Dr. Jacobs on your show, and I didn't know if maybe your listeners were confused by that and assumed you had advanced training in psychology, theology, or healthcare.
I don't believe they are confused, no, sir.
Good. I like your show. I like how you call homosexuality an abomination.
I don't say homosexuality is an abomination, Mr. President. The Bible does.
Yes, it does. Leviticus
18:22.
chapter and verse. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions while I had you here. I'm interested in selling my youngest daughter into slavery as sanctioned in Exodus 21:7. She's a Georgetown sophomore, speaks fluent Italian, always cleared the table when it was her turn. What would a good price for her be? While thinking about that, can I ask another? My chief of staff, Leo McGarry, insists on working on the Sabbath. Exodus 35:2 clearly says he should be put to death. Am I morally obligated to kill him myself, or is it okay to call the police? Here's one that's really important, because we've got a lot of sports fans in this town. Touching the skin of a dead pig makes one unclean, Leviticus 11:7. If they promise to wear gloves, can the Washington Redskins still play football? Can Notre Dame? Can West Point? Does the whole town really have to be together to stone my brother John for planting different crops side by side? Can I burn my mother in a small family gathering for wearing garments made from two different threads? Think about those questions, would you? One last.
So for my advanced offense, I decided to talk about code grooming, and CJ Craig works as the press secretary, a position that puts her as the intermediary between the press and the White House. It's assumed that the press reporters are familiar with the language and functioning of the United States government, creating a list of terms or definitions that all the reporters are supposedly familiar with. CJ uses this code grooming as a backlash to isolate someone from the group otherwise united by their recognition of a term, when a reporter is unfamiliar with the process of vetoing after she attempted to humiliate CJ previously in front of the press corps.
CJ.
Phil,
Did the president urge the chairman to hand over Abdul Wazir?
as I cover that, since this is the president's first veto, I thought it might be helpful if we brushed up on the rules. Sherry, can you tell us how many votes it takes to override a veto?
I'm sorry?
How many votes does it take to override, Sherry?
A majority.
Actually, it takes 2/3.
Yes, 2/3 majority.
Yeah, 290. And how many votes does it take to sustain? That should be easy. Just subtract 290 from the total number of members in the House and add 1. How many people sit in the House of Representatives, Sherry? Okay, maybe you can get the notes from a classmate. That's all, guys. I'll see you in the morning.
And finally, for my advanced agreement, I talked about Sam Seaborn and his NRGIA. So Sam Seaborn sits in a meeting with fellow chiefs of communication for other Democrats that support the Bartlett White House, where he works, yet none of them seem to understand the power of their own rhetoric. He speaks about the ignorance of the wording about taxing the rich by comparing his own time paying exorbitant income tax because of his salary for the good of his country, and simultaneously exhibits the insulting nature of the term against those who do the same. And my quote for this is, NRGIA works best in the narration part of the speech where you tell the story and give the facts.
Q1 and Q2 look robust. However, Q4 doesn't.
Hitting the mid-morning wall? Loaded with premium ingredients, protein-packed Jimmy Dean bowls help you avoid it. Shine on.
Sam, are you in favor of tax cuts for the wealthy?
I am not. I am in favor of tax cuts for those for whom it will do the most good. And that's tough enough, Val. And it looks like all of a sudden we've got a fair fight. But I'm not talking about policy. I'm talking about rhetoric, and the men you work for need to dial it down to 5. Henry, last fall, every time your boss got on the stump and said it's time for the rich to pay their fair share, I hid under a couch and changed my name. I left Gage Wood making $400,000 a year, which means I paid 27 times the national average in income tax. I paid my fair share, and the fair share of 26 other people. And I'm happy to, because that's the only way it's going to work. And it's in my best interest that everybody be able to go to school, drive on roads. But I don't get 27 votes on election day. The fire department doesn't come to my house 27 times faster, and the water doesn't come out of my faucet 27 times hotter. The top 1% of wage earners of this country pay for 22% of this country. Let's not call them names while they're doing it. That's all I'm saying.
And these are my works cited.